something strange is happening in Russia. It's quiet. A murmur you can barely hear over the noise of Moscow traffic or the wind whistling across the Siberian plains. But it's there. People are looking for something. Not gold, not oil. They're looking for paper. Old paper. Specifically maps. Maps from the Second World War. From the Great Patriotic War, as it's known here. They are being hunted down with a peculiar intensity, pulled from dusty attics and forgotten dachas, traded in the hushed back rooms of antique shops, scanned and digitized in secret, then locked away. The originals disappear. It's a silent nationwide scavenger hunt and nobody seems to know why it started. I heard about it first from a contact in St. Petersburg, an art dealer named Mikhail. He spoke in clipped, nervous sentences over a crackling line. He said the market was flooded, not with paintings or Fabergé eggs, but with Wehrmacht tactical charts and Red Army tactical charts. Maps showing troop movements from 1942, artillery positions outside Stalingrad, supply routes near Kursk. These weren't just collector's items anymore. The buyers were different, serious. They paid in cash, asked no questions, and left no trace. They weren't hobbyists. They were something else entirely, something more organized, more purposeful. It felt, Mikhail said, like they were gathering pieces of a puzzle he couldn't see. In a cramped apartment on the outskirts of Moscow, I met a man who called himself the librarian. His living room was a fortress of paper. Stacks of files reached the ceiling. Flat drawers held maps of every theater of the war. He moved between them with a reverence usually reserved for sacred texts. A year ago, a German operational map might fetch a few $100s. Now the price is 10, maybe 20 times that, if you can even find one. Serious collectors with deep pockets have made them disappear. He showed me a hidden vault behind a false bookshelf. Inside, under a single bare bulb, were his most prized possessions. These were not for sale. His personal collection, he claimed. Maps annotated by hand. A Red Army commander's personal chart of the Seelow Heights. The final battle for Berlin. Faint pencil marks indicated planned assault waves. A coffee stain in the corner. He spoke of the paper's texture, the smell of the ink. He said holding it was like holding a ghost. A tangible piece of a decision that cost thousands of lives. It was an obsession. Yes, but it felt like more than that. It felt like a mission. This surge isn't just happening in the shadows. It's putting pressure on official institutions. State archives report a significant increase in requests for cartographic materials from the 1940s. Researchers, often freelancers with anonymous backers, spend weeks poring over documents, taking meticulous notes. A source at the Russian State Military Archives said they've had to tighten access. Certain high-level strategic maps once available to academics are now classified, reclassified 80 years later. The doors are closing one by one. The narrative being spun is one of historical preservation, of honoring the past. But the methods, secrecy, vast sums of money, rapid consolidation, suggest something else. It feels less like preservation and more like acquisition, a strategic stockpiling of historical data.
One former military officer, speaking on condition of anonymity, put it bluntly, "You don't collect ammunition to put it in a museum. You collect it because you think you might need to use it." These maps, they are a form of ammunition.
So what are they looking for? The theories branch out like a web, each one darker than the last. The most straightforward explanation is that they are searching for lost history. The war on the Eastern Front was a chaotic, sprawling nightmare. Records were lost, units were wiped out, entire villages vanished. These maps, some theorists argue, could be keys to solving old mysteries. The final resting place of a lost battalion. The location of a field hospital swallowed by the forest. For a country so deeply invested in the memory of the war, filling in these blanks is a national imperative. It's about recovering the dead and honoring their sacrifice. A noble cause on the surface. But other theories point to something more tangible, more material. The war was not just fought with soldiers, it was fought with resources. Factories were built in secret, deep in the Urals. Bunkers, command posts, partisans hid caches of weapons gold. These locations were often marked on maps that were then deliberately lost or destroyed to keep them from enemy hands. The suggestion is that these collectors are not hunting for stories, but for treasure. Forgotten depots of munitions. Hidden bunkers that could be repurposed. veins of rare minerals discovered during wartime geological surveys and marked on a commander's map for future exploitation. The most unsettling theory, however, connects this historical hunt to the present-day military. What if the maps are not about finding what was lost, but about understanding what was done? Military strategy is a science of terrain logistics and timing. The Eastern Front was one of the largest land wars in history. The strategies employed by both the Red Army and the Wehrmacht pincer movements, deep battle operations, partisan warfare, are still studied in military academies today. Accessing the original, unredacted operational maps would be like a football coach getting the other team's complete, unedited playbook from their greatest season. It's a masterclass in strategy. This line of thinking takes a darker turn when you consider Russia's current geopolitical posture. Experts in military doctrine suggest that these maps could be used for planning modern military exercises, or more. They could be used to wargame potential conflicts along Russia's vast western border. In Ukraine, the Baltics, Poland. The terrain hasn't changed that much. The rivers, forests, and marshes are all still there. Understanding how an armored division navigated the Pripyat marshes in 1944 could provide invaluable data for moving a modern tank brigade through the same area tomorrow. The past, in this sense, becomes a direct blueprint for the future. To understand the why, you have to listen to the people who live on the fringes of this strange new world. I met a historian, Dr. Elena Petrova, in a quiet cafe. She was nervous, constantly glancing at the door. She'd been researching the phenomenon for a paper and had been warned off by what she called unofficial channels.
It is not about history.
It is about mythology. The state is building a new national identity, forged from the fire of the Great Patriotic War. They're not just collecting maps, they're collecting proof. Proof of Russia's strength, its resilience, its destiny to overcome any enemy. These maps are holy relics in a new state religion. The conspiracy theorists, of course, take it several steps further. Online forums buzz with speculation. One popular theory posits the existence of Stalin's caches, secret, deep underground bunkers built to withstand a nuclear attack, long before the Cold War. These facilities, the theory goes, were stocked with not just supplies, but with advanced, forgotten technology developed by Soviet scientists during the war. The locations were marked on only a handful of maps, which were then scattered. The current search is a state-sponsored project to find these bunkers and unlock their secrets. It sounds like a film plot, but in a country with a history of secret cities and hidden science, it doesn't feel entirely impossible. A retired intelligence analyst from a Western agency offered a more grounded but no less disturbing perspective. He saw it as a classic Russian intelligence operation focused on reflexive control, a doctrine of shaping an adversary's perception of reality. They know we are watching, he explained over a secure video call. This whole map collecting business, it's a show. They want us to see it. They want our analysts to write reports about it. They want us to wonder, are they looking for bunkers? Are they planning an invasion based on WWII tactics? They are forcing us to waste resources to chase ghosts to look in the wrong direction. The real plan is happening somewhere else entirely, while we're all busy talking about old maps. But what if the simplest theory is the most terrifying? I spoke to a young collector, a man in his 20s who had inherited his grandfather's passion for military history. He wasn't a state agent or a conspiracy nut. He was just a patriot. We study the past because it is who we are, he said with unnerving sincerity. We defeated the most powerful army in Europe once before. We bled for every inch of our land. These maps don't show us where to find gold or old bunkers, they show us how to win. They remind us that we can endure anything, that we can sacrifice everything, and that we will always win in the end. If Russia is studying its own history with this level of intensity, if it is retracing every step of its most devastating and triumphant war, what new map are they planning to draw for the world of tomorrow?